Welcome to Apparent Inspiration. This is Susan and Santhosh Mathews, here with real inspiration for real life.
Wow, we are in episode number 10 already. Can you believe that? Those of you who have stayed with us from the beginning, you guys are
Heroes.
heroes. And you can describe yourself as fanatics.
In a good way.
In a good way, in a good way. You're part of Apparent Inspiration.
Thank you for being a part of Apparent
Right.
Inspiration.
So we call it Apparent Inspiration because apparent means apparently, meaning real. Real inspiration, right?
That's right.
So we call it real inspiration for
Real life.
real life.
Yes.
So here we go. We've been talking about human trafficking, and today we'll conclude that topic on human trafficking. If you guys or your organizations or your churches or your corporate companies want to have us on as speakers and talk about this topic, there's a lot more that we can talk about. So what we are kind of giving you is an introduction, an idea about what we do and what can be done and how you can make a difference. Okay, so you are welcome to call us, invite us, ai@lovewithoutreason.org, or you can check us out on lovewithoutreason.org. There are a lot of contact information there. Reach out to us, and we can help. We've been doing this for over 13 years now, working not only in the fight against human trafficking, but also do facial surgeries. So we invite you to look us up, lovewithoutreason.org. Like, subscribe,
Share.
comment, share, all those things, okay? We want the word to get out. So if this is adding value to to your life, please do so. It'll also encourage us. So this is episode number 10. For the last 6 episodes, we've been talking about human trafficking and slavery. We started with talking about the slavery of the soul. We talked about the dominion of sin. We talked about the dominion of fear, and how we were slaves to sin, to this world, and to Satan. Then from the next 4 episodes, we talked about actual human trafficking, the physical forms of human trafficking. We talked about sex trafficking, which is a form of human trafficking. Then we talked about
Labor trafficking.
Forced labor, yes. Then we talked about child soldiers. We talked about
Child beggary.
beggary, child marriages,
Right.
and different forms of human trafficking. We've been giving you stories, and I hope you've been enjoying all these, right?
I hope you've learned something.
Right. So today we want to talk about another very difficult area. Again, viewer discretion advised, because we don't mind children listening to this, because we taught our children early on in life what human trafficking is and how they need to be careful about it. But then parents, we let you make that decision yourself. So be careful, because we are talking about some very graphic things. So today we want to talk about human trafficking in terms of organ harvesting.
Right. It sounds very unreal and surreal to me, actually. But I remember the first time that we heard this term, organ harvesting. We were in another nonprofit organization in Mumbai, India, actually. And we had just shared with the staff about Philip's story. And one of the staff pulled us to his office, and he said, "Hey, you guys, I appreciate what you're doing to change these children's faces with free surgery. But did you know that they're also sold into human trafficking networks?" And we said, "No, we didn't know that." And he said, "Yes, in parts of North India, in parts of Northern Africa, their organs are being sold on the black market." And it just shocked, stunned us, and we couldn't believe it, because all we could think about was our own son, Philip, who was born with multiple facial birth defects. And all we could hear and think about was, oh my goodness, evil people are selling organs of children just because their faces look different. They're selling them, exploiting them, and killing them. I just couldn't believe it.
It's the depravity of human soul without God is unbelievable. The Bible says, man continually think evil. It's like you're inventing evil.
That's actually one of the terms that the law enforcement have used when they were describing. I think I shared this in the previous episode about the Mexico drug cartels. You can sell drugs, but once those drugs are gone, that's the end. That's your profit.
Yeah.
But you can sell people over and over and over again. And organs, what we learned is that organ harvesting is $150 billion evil business.
$150 billion every year on organ harvesting. So what happens here? Let's talk a little bit into that. Like I said, we're going to get a little graphic, so I want you to understand that. But at the same time, this is a very, very important topic. What do? So say, for instance, there's a rich person somewhere in another country that needs an organ, maybe a kidney or a heart, or a lung or an eye, or different parts of the body, right? The normal process and the legal process is, and there is a reason to do it, and it's not all a bad thing. If a person is having a failing heart or a failing lung, it is a medical miracle that you can take somebody else's heart or a lung or an eye or whatever and transplant it into the body of a recipient who needs that.
And I think the key is that is an organ donor.
It's an organ donor, and you don't kill somebody to take their heart to put it into another person's heart.
Right.
Right?
And the most common organ that is donated is the kidney, because we each have 2 kidneys,
right,
and we can live with 1 kidney.
Right.
So it is common that I could donate my kidney,
right,
to you,
and still be alive,
and I could still live
and have a
healthy and long life.
Healthy and long life with no
Right.
complications, as
Right.
long as the surgery is done well.
That's correct.
Yeah. But then the other part is where you would have to literally kill a person to take out their heart, because you can't live without a heart, or different other parts of your body. I'm thinking heart would be the main thing, or maim a person to take out their eye,
The cornea.
their cornea rather,
Of their eye.
of their eye, and then transplant it to somebody else. So transplanting as such is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. It's a great idea. But harvesting this, evil people have found a way to line up. It could be children that are kidnapped. It could be people that need money. Sometimes there are poor people who will sell their organs in the black market. And then there are harvesters, even the doctors who go out there. And some doctors have no clue that it's happening. You have to understand that. You have to give them the benefit of doubt.
But there are some who definitely do.
Yes.
Yes.
And those are evil people. And so what happens is that they harvest this organ, and then they would transplant it into the heart of somebody, or into the body of somebody who has got money. So this is a huge business, $150 billion of business. There are some countries that because of ethnic cleansing, they would harvest the organs of people that they don't want to be, in their country.
Who has the right to do that? I can't even fathom this.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. For some people, life is meaningless. I mean, they don't care. Money is their god, and because of that, what happens is that any life that can help further their profit cause, they will use it to destroy the lives. And so this has been going on. And you know what? This is not a new thing. This is happening
Yeah.
all throughout the ages. Okay? Organ harvesting, we want you to be aware of that term because that term is not used in most places. So, what do we do with love without reason? I told you we are in the fight against human trafficking to stop it and prevent it before it starts. Okay? So, our thing is a child born with a facial deformity is considered to be a curse, is humiliated, is isolated, cannot go to school, cannot get married, cannot get a job, will live like an outcast in the society for all of his or her life. So when what we do as Love Without Reason is we get ahead of that. We meet them when they are, if as the Lord allows us, and as the donations come in, as we have the finances, we meet them at an early stage in life, and we do their surgeries. A physical cleft, a facial cleft. It could be a cleft lip or a cleft palate or anything wrong with their face or things like that. And we go ahead and fix it so that they can walk into their classrooms, get into their marriages, go for a job, give their job applications. All of this thing can be done, and they can do it with their head held high.
And they can eat.
And they can eat.
And they can grow.
Right, and especially the cleft palate surgery. Remember we said about cleft palate, if the surgery is not done within 1.5 years, this child may not speak. And if they cannot speak, then they are useless, basically. Not that people who, what I'm trying to say is in most countries, they treat people who cannot speak as if they're useless. And so what happens is these children become a burden for the family.
And that just sets them up, especially like we said,
Right.
our focus is in the developing world where this unfortunately sets them up for failure. I mean, they're just vulnerable, and it sets them up for just being a victim. I mean, it's going to happen. They've got so many things against them, and they already have. We talked about with the child brides, for example, there's other situations involved, like socioeconomic situations involved, that just put them in a place where there is nothing left for them except for one door. And that's unfortunately where human traffickers come in.
They come and they pray, and they find these vulnerable children, and they find these poor parents who are living in poverty, and then they ask them for their children, and the parents think that they're going to send their children to help somebody or to work in the field or do some job so that they can get money. And the traffickers promise a monthly income or a lump sum income. And so what they do is they take the child and either traffic them into sex trafficking or beggary or a form of being a child soldier or things like that. And the worst part is, of course, every one of them is bad, but I think when we look at it, one of the worst things is organ harvesting. They would take their organs and sell it in the black market.
And, I've been listening to stories, I've been watching some documentaries, and we'll put some links maybe on YouTube, but some of the things that are happening in some of these countries in Asia are just, like you said about the ethnic cleansing, there's like a religious cleansing in some countries. They want to destroy people's lives, and they are taking their organs, harvesting their organs. In some places, there are witnesses that are saying this, surgeons who are saying this, without anesthesia, I had to remove this person's corneas from their eyes. There was no anesthesia. And then that person's body, they went to the next station. And in that station, in that theater, they removed that person's heart without anesthesia. They cut their chest open. And then to lungs. And then, next station, liver. They were just harvesting this person's organs. At the end, with this dead body, they would throw them into the incinerators. And that was the end of it. There was no evidence. There was nothing except these witnesses who have come forward. But this is what is happening. I mean, we talk about organ harvesting. There is a definite, what you would say, maybe like an easy population, trying to get those that are in poverty, those who are struggling already, and make them their victims, reaching out to them. And then to even think about reaching out to children who are just born with a different face. That's not a crime. They're just born with a different face, and it could be so easily repaired. And that's why with Love Without Reason, we want to get ahead of the game. We have to be at the forefront of this, because literally their future changes with life-saving surgery. A simple cleft repair. Their future changes with that. The course of their future changes.
With this, we wanna kind of end on this topic of human trafficking, but we wanna give you some tools or some tips on what to do. A lot of you listening to us are like, oh my God, I hate this. I mean, you're ready to jump up and start to do all that you want to do. But you know what? Yes, you can do that. You can pray, which is a good thing.
Yes.
But you have to act.
You have to act.
Okay.
We all have to act.
We all have
you
to
have
act.
to move forward.
So today, Susan and I can give you some ideas as to what to do. Okay, and we'll talk about that. Human trafficking is an evil that must be eradicated. Our son Philip would always say, until there are no more sold. Until there are no more sold, I'll work.
Yes.
Until there are no more sold. Somebody said it, that's like an oracle from God,
Right.
The other one he said was, until the world is cleft free.
That's right.
It's a proclamation, an oracle that he made, and that's what's driving us, okay? So we want you to, the first thing that you can do is go research. Look up human trafficking in all forms. The USA State Department puts out a report called
Trafficking
in Persons report. They put that out every year, I believe.
Yes.
And so you can see what is happening all over the world. Okay, even in the U.S., there was a lot of arrests in the recent years of human traffickers, child traffickers. There were a rescue of children. The U.S. has been actively pursuing these traffickers. Look up Trafficking in Persons report. Go into different websites. There are so many organizations that fight human trafficking.
Right.
Love Without Reason does it. We do it ourselves. There is Love 146.
Oh, there's so many.
There is 1040 Connections. There is Love's Arms.
End slavery.
Stop Trafficking.
Street Grace.
Yes, and
House of Refuge.
Dream.
So many.
Dream House. Dream. What is that? Dream Center.
Dream Center.
Mm-hmm.
Polaris Project.
Yes. Oasis. A lot of organizations. I'm not saying just look us up, but look up all of these organizations. See what you can find out about human trafficking.
Right.
Second thing is you have to understand that the people who are fighting or working in the human trafficking area, you heard us share a few stories in the last 6 episodes about human trafficking. But do you know there are people who are actually social workers who are actually working in this field, and they hear story after story after story of little children. Again, viewer discretion advised. Little children being raped, 20 to 30 times a night. A night. You heard me right, a night. The trauma that the social, yes, what the child or the lady or the man has gone through is horrible. But a social worker, on the other hand, will be hearing all of these stories, and not just one story, hundreds of stories
Right.
in a year. And the more they hear,
Yeah.
it traumatizes them. It traumatizes anybody. Okay?
Yes.
So I want you to take a moment to pray for those people who are working in the fields of human trafficking.
That's right.
You also need to understand that these people, those who are working in the field of anti-human trafficking, they are targets of the mafia and of the traffickers.
That's right.
People like us who go into areas where human trafficking happens, when we go in there and when we are involved in rescue or when we are involved in educating these women, and when we do things that the traffickers feel threatened about, then we are also targets. So we have to be careful. But as far as we are concerned, we have decided that this is what we want to do, and we want to help as many as we can. So we're going forward, but we need your prayers, and we need your active prayers, because this is important. So it's not physical warfare, it's also spiritual warfare. There are demonic attacks that comes out of these places. Some of the, if you go back and listen to, I think episode number 6, I think, where Susan talks about the sex trafficking thing. She talks about walking through one of the
The red light
the
districts.
red light districts,
Mm-hmm.
and she talks about how dark and
Oppressed.
oppressed that place was.
Right.
It's oppressed by demons. People are
Yes.
struggling. There is drugs that's happening in there.
We read about this. There's initiations.
Right, initiations that happen.
Initiations that happen even in this child in this organ harvesting
Right.
thing. We read about that with the Mexican cartels too. They initiate this. What is this group called? The Knights Templar. Their initiation is that you eat a heart of a child. That's the initiation.
It's oppressive.
Yes.
So how can we, you have to understand, it's not just physical, it's also spiritual, when all these things are happening. So pray for those social workers. And, if you know of somebody who's working in the anti-human trafficking area, reach out to them. Because these people are traumatized. They're hearing stories after stories of evil. Okay?
Right.
Reach out to them. Make sure that they are loved. And people like us, we hear stories every day, and we hear about our own, those that we have rescued and those that we are teaching and educating and giving them business skills. We hear about their stories, and it is traumatizing. How can man be so evil?
Right.
Okay.
So joining an organization and being a part of an organization
Right.
is and volunteering.
Yes. So the third thing, I said, research first and then pray for these people.
Mm-hmm.
Third one, like you said, is joining and volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
You want to...
Yeah, you can also give financially.
Yeah.
Support these organizations. You may have, and maybe you're saying, I can't give, I don't have a place. Well, what skills do you have? Can you stuff an envelope into a mailer? Can you help them with writing articles? What is your talent? What's your skill? Can you build an IT software? There's so many things that you can be involved in. So it is important to give of your time and give of your efforts, give of your energy. Join an organization. You can also write to your leaders.
Right.
Write to your state and government leaders.
So we are talking about contributing. We'll talk about legislation after this. So we talk about contributing. So under the umbrella of contributions come being a volunteer. Like she was saying, can you stuff an envelope? Can you do newsletters? Can you write? Can you run an event? Can you, go to these places?
Okay.
Sometimes going to these places is a great thing.
Right.
Right? So there are those things that you can do as an individual You'll be like, oh man, I can't go out there in the field and rescue a person. No, nobody's saying that you should do that. But can you do all these things in terms of being volunteering? In terms of contributions, can you also, be giving? Giving is a huge, huge part. Have you thought about it? Even $5 or $1, or $10 every month can add up. Okay, we are looking at a patient, a person to get them out and make them semi-sustainable. I wouldn't say fully sustainable. We need about $1,000. Everybody can't do $1,000. So what they'll spend about $80 a month, or $90 a month, and then that adds up to $1,000. Sometimes you just do $5. Do where your treasure is, there is your heart. Okay, you can. There, when I talk to many people about this, and I'll be straight up. Okay, when I talk to many people about human trafficking and facial surgeries and all that, and what Philip went through, I'll see a lot of tears. Okay, and things end with the tears. Don't be like that. If you guys who are our listeners, don't be like that. Okay, if you can't give money, that's okay, no problem. But can you volunteer? Can you do the word of mouth? Can you be on the lookout? Is somebody being trafficked? What are the signs of somebody being trafficked? We need eyes and ears all over this country, all over the world. Good people need to step up. Okay, giving, volunteering your time is extremely important. Now, we're going to talk about legislation. That's something that I think we should put up there.
There's a lot of things to share, but I want to make sure that when we talk about if you see something, legislation is part of it, and we don't have to get into the law part, but writing your congresspeople, writing your senators, writing your governors that you are interested in this fight, making sure that they're aware of that is something all of us can do. All of us can be a part of that.
Right.
You also need to know the human trafficking hotline number. That's 1-888-3737-888. And we can put that up on
that's in America.
And that is in America. But there are national hotlines, and you need to know who they are for your country. Who is it that you can contact if you see something that is suspicious, some suspicious activity? We talked a lot about runaways. We talked about the vulnerable, undocumented immigrants, people that that may have experienced violence or are in a domestic violence situation. They are all at risk for being sold into some sort of human trafficking area. You may see people who are in a controlled environment where they go to the doctor, they're taken to the doctor by their guardian, and the guardian will not let them speak. Or, children go to school and they're not allowed to speak or say anything to anybody because they're in such a controlling environment. So these are some of the signs that you'd look for that will just raise some flags and say, hey, something doesn't match up. And that's when you just call the trafficking hotline or your national hotline or national contacts that you can be involved with in law enforcement and let them know, I see something, it's suspicious, and I think it needs to be checked out because somebody may not be safe. So pay attention. That's the other key thing,
Right.
We always have to be aware. I have to tell my children too sometimes, walking around with the phone in front of your face is not paying attention. Be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention.
If you want us to come and speak at your churches, or if you want to speak at the youth groups or other facilities, just let us know. AI@lovewithoutreason.org. That's apparent inspiration. Okay? AI@lovewithoutreason.org. Our time is up. Again, the Spirit of the Lord has given. Isaiah 61 says, the Spirit of God, of the Lord God is upon me, because He has appointed me to preach the good tidings to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and opening of the prison to those who are bound. That's the word. Okay? Goes on to say, to comfort those who are mourning, to console those who are mourning, to give them beauty for ashes, oil of joy for mourning, garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. That is the call, the mandate that God has placed upon us.
That's right.
We love you guys, and this is
Susan and Santhosh Mathews with apparent inspiration. That's real inspiration for real life.